In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. We are still discussing verses 124, 125 and 126 from the second chapter of the Quran. Yesterday we started discussing verse number 125, which reads as follows: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek refuge with Allah from the accursed Satan. وإذ جعلنا البيت مثابة للناس وأمنا واتخذوا من مقام إبراهيم مصلى وعهدنا إلى إبراهيم وإسماعيل أن طهر بيتي للطائفين والعاكفين والركع السجود. Translation: And we made the house. وإذ means and remember or mention when we made the house, meaning the house of Allah, the Kaaba. مثابة للناس. Mathaba, we talked about it yesterday, means a place of return, a place of assembly or a place of return. وأمنا, and a sanctuary, a place of safety and peace. واتخذوا من مقام إبراهيم مصلى, and take the station of Abraham as your place of prayer. وعهدنا إلى إبراهيم, and we made a covenant with Ibrahim and Ismail that they should purify my house for those who walk around it and stand there in devotion. للطائفين والعاكفين. It says here stand therein. العاكفين, we'll talk about it, but it means i'tikaf, to means to stay in seclusion in the house for the remembrance of Allah. والعاكفين والركع السجود, and those who bow and prostrate, meaning in prayer. So again, we'll try to go word by word. وَإِذْ جَعَلْنَا الْبَيْتَ مَثَابَةً لِلنَّاسِ وَأَمْنًا, that Allah made this house a place for return, means that Allah placed in the hearts of the believers the love for this house, so that such as they would love to go back. Anybody who has the means and he's a true believer, he feels that he wants to go back to this house. مَثَابَةً لِلنَّاسِ وَأَمْنًا, and a place of safety. And that is because Allah prescribes certain rules that guarantee safety for people who want to visit the house, through the prohibition of any kind of aggression or assault or killing or bloodshed, and even the prohibition of killing animals, even the prohibition of hunting. For people who are going for pilgrimage, they can't hunt. Even the plants are supposed to not to be damaged, and the trees, nothing. So Allah ordained many laws that prohibit any kind of aggression against any kind of creation in that house. جعلنا البيت مثابة للناس وأمنا. It does not mean that Allah forced peace upon the house. No, Allah, through His laws that He prescribed for the people, He called them not to take any kind of aggression against each other or against others who want to visit this house. And that was observed even by the pagans of Arabia before the coming of the Prophet Muhammad, like we mentioned earlier. They used to honor this. I think, if you think about it, they used to honor this more than many Muslims today, because it is mentioned in history that a person may meet the person who killed his father, and he would not take revenge from him if he saw him around the Kaaba. He would wait till some other time or some other chance. But as you can see, nowadays in the history of Muslims, there has been lots of aggression around this area. Not lots, but at least certain incidents of aggression against people around the house. As you know, it happened at the time of Al-Hajjaj, for instance, when Abdullah ibn Zubayr challenged the rulership of the Bani Umayyah, and he was in control of Al-Hijaz, this eastern part of Arabia, and the people of Bani Umayyah who ruled Syria and Jordan, Bilad al-Sham, wanted to subdue him and bring all the lands under their control, although many scholars consider that he is much more worthy of the imamate and the khilafat as compared to Bani Umayyah. And he was a very righteous servant of Allah and a Sahabi. He was more worthy of them than them. So they attacked him, and they attacked, while they attacked him, they also burnt the house and destroyed the Kaaba, and it had to be rebuilt after that, if you know this story. And you know other stories as well, such as in the 1970s, where some people also took refuge in the Kaaba, and they claimed that they had the Mahdi, the guided one amongst them. This is called Hadith al-Juhayman. You can read about it, the incident of somebody called Juhayman. And they basically, the Saudi forces basically attacked in the house, and there was lots of shooting and killing, and they even flooded the house, and they used electricity to basically electrocute the people inside to get them out. And they took, I think they asked for assistance from Western countries as well, and snipers from other Western countries. It was a big mess. And things can be handled in a better way than to, attack the house. That's it's a big issue. وَإِذْ جَعَلْنَا الْبَيْتَ مَثَابَةً لِلنَّاسِ وَأَمْنًا. So the amna here means that, doesn't mean, and I say this because some people will take this verse and say, oh, Allah said it's amna, it's peaceful, place of sanctuary, place of peace and safety, but bloodshed has taken place in around the Kaaba, so how can it be amna? Also the following verse, رَبِّ اجْعَلْ هَذَا الْبَلَدَ آمِنًا. Ibrahim is making a prayer, oh Allah, make this house a safe, this country or this land a safe land. Also we read in Surah Al Imran, إن أول بيت وضع للناس للذي ببكة مباركا وهدى للعالمين فيه آيات بينات مقام إبراهيم ومن دخله كان آمنا. This is in Surah Al Imran. I will translate this verse to you. إن أول بيت وضع للناس, the first house placed or assigned for the people, meaning for worship of Allah, this was the place. To the extent that some scholars consider that the Kaaba was not initiated at the time of Ibrahim. Ibrahim and Ismail alayhim salam, they rebuilt the Kaaba, or rebuilt the place of worship on that land. وَإِذْ بَوَّأْنَا لِإِبْرَاهِيمَ مَكَانَ الْبَيْتِ. Allah says, I showed Ibrahim the place of the sanctuary, or the house, the Kaaba. But if we say إِنَّ أَوَّلَ بَيْتٍ وُضِعَ لِلنَّاسِ, the first house of worship assigned for the people was there. That's why some scholars consider that Adam alayhi salam, when he was descended to earth, and the first place he was descended to was that spot, and that's was the first place people worshipped Allah, and that's why Allah says, called it أول بيت, the first house, and also وَلْيَطَّوَّفُوا بِالْبَيْتِ الْعَتِيقِ, and so that they should circumambulate around the ancient house. So it is very ancient. It's a first place of worship. إن أول بيت وضع للناس للذي ببكة مباركا وهدى للعالمين. This is a blessed place, and it's a place of guidance for the worlds, for the people, for mankind. فيه آيات بينات, it contains clear signs of Allah. مقام إبراهيم, one of those signs is the station of Ibrahim, where he stood, the stone that he stood. Basically, maybe it was a soft stone or something, or it was a miracle that his footsteps were carved into that stone, and they are still present till today. And as you know, if you ever went there, they are enclosed in this glass case, and you can see through it, and you can see the footsteps of Ibrahim. This has been kept sacred and protected throughout the ages. The Arabs kept it, and the Muslims kept it, and it's right there. مقام إبراهيم ومن دخله كان آمنا, and whoever enters it, he should be safe. ومن دخله كان آمنا means that you should make whoever enters this house safe, and you should provide security for that person, because it's a place of worship. You can't be worshiping and looking around you because somebody may assault you. So and that is why Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he made the prayer, he wanted to make the prayer to provide two main things, the two basic necessities of life, the two basic necessities, safety and food. You have to have some kind of provision, you have to feel safe, right? And that is why he says, رَبِّ اجْعَلْ هَذَا بَلَدَ آمِنًا وَارْزُقْ أَهْلَهُ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ. Oh Allah, make it safe and provide for the people who dwell in it various fruits and various kinds of produce. And this is also mentioned in Surah لإلاف قريش, Surah Quraysh, إلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف فليعبدوا رب هذا البيت. They should worship the Lord of this house, الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف. He provided them out of hunger. He did not leave them hungry. He satisfied their hunger and he protected them out of fear. He took the fear away and took the hunger away, and these are necessities so that people can worship Allah. You can see that in أَلَمْ يَجِدْكَ يَتِيمًا فَآوَى وَجَدَكَ ضَالًّا فَهَدَى. Yani, Allah mentions that people need these necessities. Even He mentioned that to the Prophet. He says that Allah, you were an orphan, and Allah provided you with shelter and a family to foster you. يَتِيمًا فَآوَى وَجَدَكَ ضَالًّا فَهَدَى وَجَدَكَ عَائِلًا فَأَغْنَى. And you were in need, you were poor, and Allah provided for you. So that's a shelter, and also the food. And you read in the hadith, من بات آمنا في سربه معافا في جسده عنده قوت يومه فكأنما حيزت له الدنيا بحذافيرها. This is a very magnificent hadith in which the Messenger ﷺ says, whoever is in a state where he is safe, while he walks around. Sirbih means in his streets. When he walks this street or this street and he feels safe. Man bata aminan fi sirbihi mu'afan fi jasadi, healthy in his body. Indahu qutu yawmihi, he has enough food for the day. For the day, subhanallah. If you have the food for the day and you have the safety wherever you go and you are healthy, subhanallah, Prophet ﷺ says, فَكَأَنَّمَا حِيزَتْ لَهُ الدُّنْيَا بِحَذَافِيرِهَا. He says, this is as if Allah has given him the whole dunya. Really, because if you have the whole dunya today, let's say somebody owned the whole dunya today, is he going to use the whole dunya? No, he's going to be happy if he's healthy and he had his food for today and he was safe for today, right? He cannot consume the whole dunya. But for that day you have consumed the whole dunya. Even if it was available to you, you wouldn't enjoy more than what was mentioned in this hadith. وَإِذْ جَعَلْنَا الْبَيْتَ مَثَابَةً لِلنَّاسِ وَأَمْنًا. So Allah said this is a place that Allah made safe, and that is true because Arabia at the time, the rule of the jungle was basically the rule. The tribes were raiding against tribes, and people were being kidnapped and taken as prisoners and made as slaves, and there was all sorts of crime right around, but except that spot. And that Allah mentioned that in the Quran. أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا أَنَّا جَعَلْنَا حَرَمًا آمِنًا وَيُتَخَطَّفُ النَّاسُ مِنْ حَوْلِهِمْ. Which means that Allah talking to Quraysh, and they should believe in Allah and thank Allah, show gratitude and follow the Prophet. He says, don't they see أَنَّا جَعَلْنَا حَرَمًا, this sanctuary, آمِنًا, peaceful, وَيُتَخَطَّفُ النَّاسُ مِنْ حَوْلِهِمْ, while people are being snatched right and left around them. This was a very safe spot in all of Arabia, and all other forms of raiding and tribes and kidnapping was happening, and bloodshed was happening around them. So they knew this. They knew it was a place of safety. So this verse has been fulfilled. Yeah, this prayer for safety has been fulfilled. But if there are incidents here and there that go against the safety, this does not exclude the basic default rule that prevailed on this land, because we're not in Jannah, right? First of all the trials of dunya have to happen in this dunya to some extent. But if you compare that spot and take it throughout its history, from the time this dua was made up until this point in time, and you compare it to other spots of land on earth, you will see that many towns have been destroyed and ravaged, and people killed and evicted from their land. But this has not happened except very small instances that we can enumerate, where there was some kind of bloodshed, temporary to a small limited magnitude, and then everything came back to its normal state of safety again. Even when the Qaramita, anybody familiar with the Qaramita, it is a sect, it's a very extreme sect of the Ismaili Shiite. So you have the Sunnah and you have the Shia, right? These are the two big divisions in Islam. But out of the Shiism, there's moderate Shiism, of course, which is mostly the Shiism of the past. It is very rare to find moderate Shiism today, because most of the sects that have persisted till today of Shiism are a little bit more extreme in their beliefs and so on, and they have acquired so much false beliefs that some of them have actually basically departed totally from Islam with their false beliefs. But even amongst the Shiism, there is al-Imamiyya and Ismailiyya, Ja'fariyya and Ismailiyya. So Imamiyya or Ja'fariyya, and that's the Ismaili. The Ismaili is a smaller branch offshoot from Shiism. And out of that smaller offshoot, the Ismailiyah, there's another branch, very extreme, called Al-Qaramita, which maybe I mentioned some things about them before, which basically they're non-Muslims. They claim to be Muslims, but they're non-Muslims. They don't follow any of Allah's rules. They have zina is actually halal in their religion. Not only zina al-maharim is even halal. Like a person can not marry, just have his sister or his mother or anybody or his daughter. That's fine for them. So they used to attack the pilgrims as they are going for pilgrimage. Used to attack them to the extent that pilgrimage was stopped for many years because of them, because of the raids on the pilgrims as they're going. And one time they actually raided the Kaaba itself and they killed the pilgrims, thousands of pilgrims in the Kaaba, and they actually carved off the black stone and took it. And they were stationed in Bahrain. Bahrain is basically the place of Al-Ihsa, not the Bahrain, the island, but Bahrain used to be called the eastern coast of Arabia is called Al-Bahrain. That's where they were stationed. And they took the black stone, and it stayed with them for like 70 or 80 years before it was returned by the Muslims back again. So it was an incident where they killed, and their leader stood there, says, "Oh, where is your Lord? And where is وَمَنْ دَخَلَهُ كَانَ آمِنًا?" You know, he was mocking these verses. That's out of his ignorance. مَنْ دَخَلَهُ كَانَ آمِنًا means that's a duty upon the Muslims to provide safety for anyone who enters the house. You provide safety for them. You don't take revenge against them. You don't assault them in any way. You follow? So that's a ruling that's incumbent upon the Muslims. If the Muslims fail to fulfill it, that's their problem. It does not go against the verse. You know, it's a command to fulfill, for us to provide that kind of safety. But even the Quran mentions that fighting can occur within the precinct of the house. It's mentioned in the Quran. So the Quran shows that if the Quran said that it's a safe house, but also the Quran said that fighting may occur. Okay, sporadically, rare instance can happen. And that's, you read it in Surah Al-Baqarah. وَلَا تُقَاتِلُوهُمْ عِنْدَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ حَتَّى يُقَاتِلُوكُمْ فِيهِ. Do not fight any of your enemies around or in the vicinity of Al-Masjid Al-Haram, the sacred house. حَتَّى يُقَاتِلُوكُمْ فِيهِ, unless they start or initiate the fighting against you in that. فَإِنْ قَاتَلُوكُمْ فِيهِ فَاقْتُلُوهُمْ. So if they start the fight and the battle and the bloodshed against you in the vicinity of the house, you are allowed to do the same, which means that violence can take place, right? It's mentioned in the Quran. So people who try to bring up these doubts and confusions, they neglect those other verses that say that things like this can happen. Even the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says, لا تزال هذه الأمة بخير ما حفظت حرمة هذا البيت. He says this ummah will continue to be blessed as long as they take care of the sanctuary of this house, the sanctity of this house. And in another hadith he says, the meaning is that وَلَنْ يَعْتَدِي عَلَى الْبَيْتِ إِلَّا أَهْلُهُ, or something like this. The meaning is that it's actually the Muslims themselves who will be violating the sanctuary and the sanctity of this house. So Prophet Muhammad ﷺ predicted that it will be the Muslims who commit this violation, and that is what's happened so far in history. People who claim to be Muslims are the ones who violate it. I mentioned the incident of Al-Hajjaj, I mentioned the incident of Al-Qaramita, I mentioned the recent incident that happened in Saudi Arabia recently. شوف لي الحديث إلا أهله بهذا البيت إلا أهله. شوف لي, get me the wording of the hadith. Also it is mentioned in the hadith ولن يستحل هذا البيت إلا أهله. That's the wording. ولن يستحل هذا البيت إلا أهله, which means that only the people who are supposed to be the guardians of this house will be the ones to violate its sanctity. And فإن استحلوه فلا تسأل عن هلكة العرب. He says, and when they neglect and violate the sanctity of this house, then you will see how much devastation will happen to the Arabs, specifically the Arabs, because it's in Arabia. The guardians of the house are the Arabs. That's the center of the Arabs, right? And that is maybe another meaning. that وَإِذْ جَعَلْنَا الْبَيْتَ مَثَابَةً لِلنَّاسِ وَأَمْنًا, it is a cause for safety. It is a cause for protection of Allah of this ummah. If this ummah violates this house, then danger and harm will happen to this ummah. You follow? This is another way we could understand this verse with جَعَلْنَا الْبَيْتَ مَثَابَةً, a place of return and a cause for safety. It was a cause for safety for people who visited it, but also you can take it more generally that as long as we revere this house and honor this house and protect it, then Allah will also provide protection of this ummah. Because He said in the hadith very clearly that فَإِنِ اسْتَحَلُّوهُ فَلَا تَسْأَلْ عَنْ هَلَكَةِ الْعَرَبِ, that if they violate this house and violate its sanctity, then you can imagine how much harm will happen, especially to the Arabs. نعم يبايع بين الركن والمقام ولن يستحل البيت إلا أهله means only the people of this house or the people who are supposed to be protecting this house will be the only people to violate it. فإن استحلوه فلا يسأل عن هلكة العرب. Then you can't even imagine how much destruction and killing and bloodshed will happen to the Arabs. So that's basically one of the things, and that is that's actually something we're seeing. You can see how much there's been internal fighting amongst the Arabs and between the Arabs, and how much they have killed from each other, and that's because of the violations of the law of Allah in general, and also the violation of the sanctity of the house. We'll stop here.